is a fairly malicious document, because what one does say after a working day to one's partner, which in his case was the diary, is always over the top. It's full of the feelings we haven't been able properly to express during that working day.
Diaries are written so that one has a record of events, and because there are certain events one wants to remember, there is perhaps also the element of the confessional in them. And that isn't a bad thing in my eyes. It has certainly eased my loneliness. The accusation of falsity comes because they say one isn't really objective and only puts down what one wants to say. Of course one does. One puts down what one wants, not what the others want. That is what is so delightful about the diary. It is what the self wants to say.
Kenneth Williams' radio career established him as a national figure. From Hancock through Beyond Our Ken to Round the Horn, written by Barry Took and Marty Feldman, he took his outrageously camp humour to an audience of millions.
Hello, I'm Julian. This is my friend Sandy.
Oh.
Hello.
I think the reason that Round the Horn was so successful, and has weirdly continued to be successful, is that it was part of that image of England's swings. It was the time the Beatles came to prominence. It was a time of Till Death Us Do Part on television. It was a time when people were expanding their views, and people had changed the law regarding homosexuality and prostitution, and there was a feeling of freedom in the air. He was perfect. He was absolutely brilliant. He loved the show. He loved Kenneth Horne. He admired our work. I have letters from him written in his own immaculate handwriting saying how much he'd enjoyed series. We listened to him and we echoed what we found in him and played it back to him, as it were, through the script.
And we opened a nice little guest house.
Guest house. Bonalatti. Bonalatti. As the regular Omi from Omi.
Yeah.
Omi from Omi, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. Unfortunately, it fizzled.
Fizzled right out. Fizzled. Which was a rotten shame, wasn't it? Oh, it was a shame. You put a lot into that, didn't you?
Everything.
Go on, tell him you put a lot into it. He put his pension in.
Well, half my pension, or as the French might say, demi-pension.
There he goes again. French, you see. Oh, it's a da band at the Polari.
Actors like to have a private language of their own, where the general public could not join in. They wouldn't know what they were talking about. Say, Vada the Omi means nothing unless you know that it means, look at that man. Yeah? Vada the Omi Poloni means, look at that homosexual. Gay person.
He went into partnership with that big Omi fisherman. Swarthy he was, airy, with the great gold earrings. He used to take you out, didn't he?
Yes, we used to go sardine fishing of a night.
In his smack. You had the smack. Fishing smack. Yes. Sardine. Then tell Mr. Woggan.
Oh,
the storm come. He was blown overboard, wasn't you?
Overboard.
Yes, you had to hang on to the side of that boat, didn't you?
Ruined my nails.
You hang on to the side of that boat.
Did you manage to drag yourself up on deck?
Oh, no, we dressed quite casual.
Many people must have thought, particularly when those Kenneth Horne programs first came out, that here was a highly anarchic and subversive figure. That was probably about as anarchic as he got, because apart from that, he was sticking pretty closely to the script. And, of course, the kind of script in the Carry On films, for example, that dealt in good old British types. It didn't try and introduce any new ones.
And there's bedding and bunks by the coach. No, Barbara. Tent up first. Bunk up later.
He's peculiarly British in that he's got that prurience about sex. He loved the double entendre.
It seems a little bit rickety, Doctor.
Yes, well, of course, it's fairly easy to get it up. It's getting it to stay up. That's what counts. Oh, and of course, you haven't pegged it down properly.
Oh, of course. You must forgive me, Doctor. I've never done it before.
Yes, so you told me earlier.
He took advantage of the fact that he could say the things that most of us drew back from. And I think that part of English life that goes on through the McGill cartoons, you know, from Hogarth right through those seaside... What the Butler Saw machines, through the plays of Joe Orton, through the music hall variety, the prudishness that goes with it.
In the 1960s, Kenneth Williams became great friends with Joe Orton, the playwright, and his lover, Kenneth Halliwell. He both played in and directed Orton's work. Orton, also a diarist, had sexual mores which were completely opposite to those of Williams.
I walked him to King's Cross, where he caught a bus home. On the way, we talked about sex. You must do whatever you like, I said. As long as you enjoy it and don't hurt anyone else, that's all that matters. I'm basically guilty about being homosexual, you see. He said. Then you shouldn't be. I said. Get yourself fucked if you want to. Get yourself anything you like. Reject all the values of society. And enjoy sex. When you're dead, you'll regret not having fun with your genital organs.
Like Orton and Halliwell, Williams did holiday in Morocco because of the availability of sexual partners, young men, in a culture which, at that time at least, didn't deem this to be too offensive.
Traditional night of self-regard and got off at about 1:15. I woke about 8:30. A bloke in the soccer asked me, "You want some stuff?" Meaning drugs, the impertinence. Me, that about China. Went to the Lisboa, met Jaffa, and eventually took me to a sleazy apartment house in the Medina where a Spanish queen with an ill-fitting toupee showed us into a wretched chamber for 15 dinars. I gave Jaffa 20 dinars. He did a bit with a belt, but the noise was deafening in the quiet. It was 1:30 by then, so had to desist. I returned to the Rembrandt and thought, I'll have another bit of that tomorrow.
If there was some sort of moderate success, as there sometimes was, I think, in his visits to Morocco, where he was a little bit more adventurous because it wasn't Victorian England, he'd be left with some memento of the occasion in the form of some infestation which he really had to rush off and cure with potions and powders.
I think that God did not intend me to have a sexual relationship of any kind. And that is why all these dire consequences occur whenever I defy his ruling.
He'd say, he's nice, isn't he? And I said, go on, kid. Good. He said, no, mustn't. Because I suppose in the 50s and 60s, you had to keep it down, didn't you? And I said, oh, go on, darling. If that's what you want, that's what you want to be. He went, no, I can't. Not nice.
His only outlet is exhibiting his extremely funny personality in front of an audience. And when he isn't doing that, he's a very sad man indeed.
Yes, I've had it hard. I've known hardship. I've had it hard. Yes, I have, dear. You have too, have you? Mind you, well, I was out there, wasn't I? I done my bit in Burma, dear. I was out in Burma, well, in Mountbatten. I was with Mountbatten in Burma. Well, I wasn't actually with him. I was on the same side, you know what I mean?
Orton was a writer. Kenneth isn't. Orton had access to his real feelings and used the diaries and what he observed to explore and express a wide range of complicated feelings. And the sad thing when you read Kenneth's diaries is that Kenneth had no psychological insight, particularly, into himself or particularly the world around him. It's just there to be recorded.
Ken never went to a university. He never even went to a drama school. He was a trained draftsman, that's all.
Honestly, I don't know why I bother being Emperor.
Why do you?
Oh, don't be silly. What else could I do? At school, I didn't even get me X1+.
I think he thought he was probably doing rather well, but I always felt that his writing was a little bit trying too hard.
Infamy! Infamy! They've all got it into me! He was highly intelligent, I must say, and an avid reader, and you could not fault him on English poetry.
He used to, read lots of books and then chuck them in the bin afterwards,
I reflected today that I'm only able to lead this leisured life of reading and writing and listening to my gramophone records because of the carry-on films. The banal vulgarity of these pictures provides the wherewithal for me to sit reading my books of poetry and biography and reflecting upon the utterly civilized values